Hello friends, welcome back to another Value Vintage Cards video. So this one is kind of part two. I know YouTube videos tend to not be cliffhangers, and I didn't mean it to be that. I just thought it was actually cool to document kind of both steps of what a trade looks like. So up front was what I was sending out, kind of the negotiation process, finding dealers that I primarily had done business with before, purchasing and meeting at shows and different things. So I had made pretty good sized purchases from both of these dealers. So I think there was a little bit of extra trust built there. But having things to trade, the other video, which I will show a link in this video as well, but the other cards that I was moving on, which are documented in the other video, we're more so, I always say, kind of like the bulk, ideal card show kind of cards. Frank Robinson rookies. I moved several. Reggie Jackson rookies. That 100 to 250, 300, a lot more shoppers in that margin. And then, what I was trying to do was take a bunch of cards and move it into something a little bit bigger. So, I think it was 32 total cards. The first card that I'll show you, I moved 6, and the others ended up, by the time we pieced, we kind of said, all right, so this is everything. Got to be 26 cards. It was a mixture of graded and ungraded. So, depending on the dealer, and I did one other trade that I'll document. Some dealers are fine with both. Some prefer one or the other. The one I just did, the folks that I was trading with said, we'll take the graded only. And then when I showed them like 7 graded choices, they said, we'll take those 5. So they were a little bit more clearly defined in what they wanted and what they were willing to take. So I'll actually share that one in a separate video. So I'm just going to I've received all of the first 5, which is super awesome. It's actually as good and better than expected. I will say I hope I didn't build it up too much. I definitely took 32 cards and turned it into 5. Not all of them are huge. Not all of them are scarce. They're not, dream cards, chase cards for everyone. One, I would say, was on my short list of if I can find it. A couple of them were definitely in my wheelhouse, and a couple were just like classic things that I felt like I needed to have back. They're actually cards I had. So, I always kind of throw that in too. Like, people will say it's not an investment, it's a hobby. Right. And I agree, if everything dropped by 95%, I would go shopping and I would celebrate that now I can afford anything and everything. And what a 95% discount means, you're buying, Goudy Roots for $150, and, life is kind of fun at that point. But the reality is, I think if you're spending, $100 or $1,000 or $5,000 on a card, you don't really not care what that does. So, unless you're in a different world than I am, but in my world, those dollar amounts matter. And I hope they don't go to nothing. So I hope they at least retain. If they can keep up with inflation, cool. If they can be better than inflation, neat. The market seems to have always kind of seen those incremental steps. So we see booms as card shows become a thing. We see booms as COVID becomes a thing. We see booms as maybe, eBay becomes a thing. So you kind of see those steps and then plateaus and then some stability. But, I think we always hope to at least, creep up. And in 30 years, if these cards are worth more than they are today, that wouldn't surprise me. And, that would kind of be my hope and expectation, I would say. So, I didn't even plan to talk about that. That's a whole different video, but I do want to show what I picked up. So the first one I exchanged there was some different patch cards. I think I might have like a Reggie rookie in there or something like that. And then, I had my Sandy Koufax that had a major blemish, and I kind of alluded to the card I was trying to trade for had a kind of major blemish to it. And it's a little bit by design. You will notice that this card, when you search it out, they're not all quite this quote unquote bad. This did grade a 1, but I will say that it is a card that is frequent to see problems. All right, so this set, I'm going to go research on you. This set has this card graded 18 times with SGC, and PSA, they actually kind of break it down into different classifications. So there's 44, 6, and 2, so 52. So is that right? 52 and 18, so we're at about 70. Sounds right. So maybe there's 100 of them out there, but I had shared one. I had one from this set. I had a red Shandy's that I picked up, and it had a hole punched in it, which is the other really common thing. On the back, there is a spot when you're redeeming it that actually says, like, punch card here. It literally says punch card here. So a lot of these have holes, and a lot of the graders will actually specify and say it's a hole punch. It's we would look at that as like authentic, destroyed, but in reality, because it's an expectation, it's not as crazy. The other thing you see commonly with these, and this is a let's make sure I can document that, because I don't know if I would have known this, a year ago. 1960 Lake to Lake Henry Aaron. So basically distributed in Milwaukee area, which makes sense, right? In 1960, they did Braves. In 61, I believe they did Packers. So another cool opportunity for a set. But what they did with a lot of these was you'd see a staple mark there. So you'll actually see a lot of them graded ones that have punctures and, a little bit of an issue. This one obviously had the punctures, and then somebody must have not carefully taken the staple out. They just tore it off. So fairly destructive. But this card is so scarce. The last one prior to this, I think, sold for 700 and something. So just to give you guys an idea, I mean, this is one of those sets like I don't think I've seen at a card show even. Maybe at Strongsville. And I don't know if I knew what I was looking at. So I think it's really cool. The image of Hank is really, really neat. So I was very, very happy. I was very, very a lot. It's amazing. If you want to grow in your public speaking, start a YouTube channel and then watch it back and be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I did that. That's my Hank Aaron. So that was trade 1. Trade 2 was literally 26 cards. I think I sent my SGC box. I've only had one SGC grading, and I had to give that up just to make sure they were sent safely. So I wanted to make sure everything was secure and that what I was sending was going to be as protected as, I was hoping that they would be sending back to me. So I will run through those 4 cards now. The first one is a little bit scarce. It's a 1922 E120. SGC has graded 28 of them, and PSA has graded, what are we looking at here? Not a lot either. 35. So, yeah, 35 and 28 is not a lot, right? 63. And it's actually somebody I just did a player run video on. That is we kind of talk about that, like, I feel like it's sometimes kind of ironic. It is graded a 1, but that is really a fantastic one. And if you've not seen the back of one of those, it's got the checklist. So you get manager, you get players. Really, really cool card. So I was happy to have this. This was kind of like one of the minor cards in the deal. But I was really happy to convert, a couple things I had duplicates of for yet another Eddie Collins card. So really happy. The White Sox image, just really clean picture. And again, you're talking about things with a population of the 60s, so maybe there's 100 of them floating around, but it's not a really common card. The next 2, I will not get into pops on, don't care. They're far more common cards, but I was going to say they're bigger cards. at least in my world. If they're not in yours, then good for you. But for me, these are big. So next one is a 41 play ball Joe DiMaggio, 1.5. And again, the value vintage end of things, to me, again, if you're judging grading on a 1941 play ball, then neat for you. But the fact it exists is neat for me. Back's really clean. The front's really decent. I mean, it's a little stainy or something maybe, but my gosh, I think that's a great looking 1.5, and it's a stinking Joe DiMaggio. I mean, that's one of the more epic cards in the industry, I think. So, I mean, that, for a lot of people, that's like a top 5, top 10 looking card. The image of it is just so neat. So, I'm really happy to have that one back. That was one I had and had to move on from. And then the other one is similar story. I've had it, had to move on from it. So I'm really happy to have one of these back home in the collection. And it's another one, but I think it's a strong one. 1952 Topps. And I think both of these were valued very fairly. So the way we kind of worked our trade, I think neither one of us took the role of like consumer versus dealer. I think we respected each other pretty well with pricing. I didn't really try and like negotiate down on anything, and I don't think he gave me anything that was like, small percentage of, book value. But 52 Topps, Willie Mays definitely has, if I get really close, you can see there's definitely some creasing to it and things, but at a distance, it's gorgeous. The color is pretty good. Centering is off a bit. And again, for some people, that would be a deal breaker. For me, I don't care. When you start chopping off entire like edges, or maybe on the back you can't read something, like that would be a little tougher in my world. But actually, this one, I guess it does. I mean, technically, the back is more off-cut than the front, but even as a backed reader, I am not offended. I am super good with that. So, 52 Topps Willie back in the collection, which means on the Willie Mays run of what I have, I am missing Burke Ross. That's outside, I guess. You can't really, if you go outside, that I'm missing a lot because there's some really cool stuff that I'm missing. Stallmeyers and stuff like that. But Topps Bowman, I'm down to missing just the 51 Bowman. So that's a stretch card for sure, but it's realistic. I can do that. I can complete the Mays run at some point in my life. Got some years left, so start saving now. All right, and the last card. I don't think it's necessarily even the biggest. Mays might be the most expensive. Maybe this one is. I think they're fairly close, at least in my book. I think Mays is easier to comp. This one's tougher. So taking a look at this, it's a 1972 card. So it feels really modern, actually. PSA has graded 94 of them. SGC has come across 24. So it's at 118. So it's, in my world, that counts as scarce. I'm sure there's still several. I know there's one on eBay right now that's not graded. So it's not as though they're all graded, but maybe there's, 150 to 200. I'm assuming because of where these are being recognized as dollars and such, that most are being sent in. I'm not a, grade everything person. If it's $20, put it in a top loader and put it in a box and you're good to go. But when you put a comma in the price or something, I feel like maybe that's the time you say, let's preserve, and, the extra 0.5 or 1 has a different value to it. And so, really happy to have this one. This was one that was on my list of, if I could find a way to make it happen, I'd be thrilled. It's a 1972 Puerto Rican. It's actually a sticker. So it's by far my most expensive sticker. And, I don't know that I knew this existed some years ago. Let me make sure this thing comes in okay. I think when you get Mike Schmidt, no mustache even, that alone makes it cool. Or does it make it less cool? I'm not sure. But 1972 Puerto Rican. So I actually have 3 from this set now. I have the Frank Robinson. I have the Satchel Paige, which are both cool cards. Paige is a fairly big card, at least in my world. But this thing is crazy cool. So you're going pre-rookie. 73 Topps is a rookie. I've got the Topps. I've got the O-Pee-Chee. I don't even know, with all the different offshoots and odd things and whatnot. I don't know where his run stops. I'm sure I have his whole main Topps Donruss Fleer run, which gets weird when you get into like the 80s. But these are neat. These are just so neat. So you're talking about something that there's maybe 150 to 200 of from the 70s. It's hard to get scarce when it's fairly modern. You know, it's a fairly recent card. So really happy to have this thing in the collection. Just, you know, it's just neat. Look at that thing. Make sure it's not super glary. Holy cow. My lighting can just eat up these PSA holders sometimes. The other day I had trouble with SGC because of getting reflections. But that's a cool Schmidt. You know, best third baseman of all time. So now I've got his rookie card. So that's it. That's all. I turned 32 cards. I don't know, you know, if that's a win-loss. Cool, but, you know, getting some cards that I wouldn't have otherwise had. So Schmidt, Mays, got the Joe D, and then just to top off that deal, put in a little Eddie Collins, and then Hank that, you know, if that thing's graded a 6 or 7, it's out of my league, so I'll take one just a little bit rough. So hopefully I didn't oversell what I was getting. I was hoping. I've shown some good cards, so when I say it's a big card, I hope people don't think I'm getting into crazy stuff, but for me, those are all classified as big cards, and they all have a very distinct spot in my collection, and I'm very happy to have them. So to the 2 dealers I've worked with for these, thank you. The next one I will show with a couple of their kind of similar cards, so the next one I will be revealing soon too, but since these are all in, this is it. Very happy day to have these in the collection, and hope that was fun. I will see you all in the next one. Thanks.